We want to talk about refugees today. And I have Gerard here who works in Greece, where so many refugees are first touching Europe. And I have Suse here who works kind of at the other end of the pipeline in Germany, where people are beginning to settle and often having real difficulties. We know that the subject of refugees comes and goes, and when we have some really dramatic image, like the body of a little boy on a beach, people think about it for a little while. But news cycles are short, and it disappears from our conscious awareness. But for people who have a heart for God and for other people, the issue of refugees really should never be very far from our lives in prayer and in compassion and as a point of staying informed. You know, starting from about 1992, tens of thousands of Christians began to pray for a month or so every year for the Muslim world. At that point, because I was part of initiating that project, we didn't have much hope really, because there were so few people turning to Jesus out of Muslim background. Even though they know about him, what they learn is enough misinformation that it turns them away. Things began to change almost immediately. They began to have Muslim reports from Muslim people from all over the world having dreams and visions and healings and encounters with a man in white, and then they would find some Christian somewhere who would be able to explain, well, maybe that's Jesus. And we started seeing that happen. We were all praying for a big harvest. We never dreamt that it would come with such magnitude and also with such complexity. It's a huge harvest, but it's not an easy harvest. And so Gerard and Suse both have experience of what it's like. And Gerard, how did it happen for you? You've been involved, what, a year and a half or so now?
About a year, almost a year now.
Okay.
How did it happen? Well, basically, 13th of October 2015, on our YWAM base, we're in an intercession time. And we're praying into this crisis because the images had reached us that boats of refugees were crossing the sea from Turkey, crashing on the beaches of Greece, and it was just a lot of hardship going on, a lot of need. And so we're praying into that. And so often in prayer, when we pray into something like God speaks and God spoke, send a team. And so we sent a team 24 hours later. I was part of that team, had the privilege to lead it. Found an opportunity to start serving into the refugee camps on the island, the Greek island of Lesvos, that was receiving.
Why Lesvos?
Well, Lesvos is an island that is located about 6-7 miles away from the Turkish shore, actually.
So it's really close.
Yeah, so when you're standing on the beaches, and people could actually in the distance see the boats getting filled with refugees while they were crossing, coming into and onto the shores of Europe.
What was it like when you got there? What did you experience?
It was complete chaos and disaster. We arrived there right at the time that the crisis was hitting like its highest points of arrival numbers. There were literally thousands of people, 100 plus boats with like 40 to 60 people in it, basically landing on the beaches of this small island every day. And there was just mass chaos, no coordination, lots of need, a lot of traumatized people, and basically not enough means and not enough hands to help the people. And God opened the door there for us to start working.
So did you have previous experience of organizing refugee camps?
No, not at all.
So actually there was a place for people who didn't have skills but just were ready to help.
That's right. I think YWAMers are and believers are fit for this kind of work, as it involves solving problems, just showing godly character, being good servants, giving your best to people in need. It's all very basic things. If you're able and willing to work some hard, long days and to love on people in need and to comfort the ones that need it and serve whatever comes your way, it is a fantastic environment to serve in and to actually get a heart for people and to get a heart for nations and to get a glimpse of God's heart.
It was that way then. Is it still that way now? And if so, how long do people need to come for to be of any real help?
Yeah. So there has been a shift in the crisis, as in there's been a deal between the European Union and Turkey that really keeps a lot of refugees on the Turkish side right now, but there's still a couple of dozen and sometimes more, up to 100 a day that arrive. But because the refugees are not allowed to travel onwards into Europe, so actually camps are getting fuller, they're overfilling. Even though it's not very much in the media anymore, camps are full of people in need, and
Yeah.
we're actually desperate for teams to come, because as a lot of the media has moved on, there's not enough attention for it anymore, but actually the need, I would say, is as high as it has ever been.
Yeah, because really a lot of those people who came were coming thinking they were in a processing and transit camp, and it turned into like a prison, didn't it?
That's
so
right.
they're still there.
That's right.
And a lot of the other organizations, I think, pulled out too when the deal was done.
Yeah, there were, and I mean, some of these organizations, big international NGOs, they do not pull back from much, but the moment it was decided that the refugees would not be allowed to apply for refuge where they wanted to, and they were basically getting stuck in camps in Greece and on the Greek islands, the camps would have been considered from that moment onwards detention centers instead of transition camps. And from one day to the other, people just got stuck at borders,
Yeah.
stuck in camps, double fences, spotlights, and barbed wire.
Okay, I want to come back to that, but let's go to Suse, because before they got stopped, already there were over 1 million people who found their way on through southern Europe and into Germany. And you're in a small town. What size is the town, and how many refugees?
Bad Blankenburg is a tiny small town with 6,800 people,
6,800.
and we have 300 refugees.
300. Well, where are they staying?
Well, they're staying in apartments, but also we have an old school that closed down, so about 100 of them stay in the school.
And did the government provide people to receive them, or
Well,
what
it's
happened?
actually a very interesting story, to see how God actually provides or prepares people, because we got the base 2 years ago. God gave it as a gift to us. And when I asked the Lord, how are you going to fill the house? Because we're in the middle of nowhere, God spoke to my heart and He said, I will send you the students, but they will look differently from what you expect, what you're expecting. And the very first week when we wanted to start our disciple training program, we needed to cancel because we weren't ready. And this is the day when we got the information that the first refugees arrived 2 years ago. So I got in contact with the social department, and they asked us to help them out because they weren't ready. They didn't have enough social workers, so we helped them out. And actually on the day when they arrived, I was at the train station with our team, and I was a little bit aside, and as they got off the train, I heard the Lord speaking to me, are you willing to see them not as refugees, but as young people I'm sending you to train them to become world changers? And that's a thought you don't think for yourself. That's something that I believe that the Lord spoke to me right in this moment. And I looked at them, and they looked like Joseph and Mary when, for Christmas. Like how we know they arrived, they had their plastic bags, and they looked around, where are we now? And later on they told us through how many countries they had to walk, and what a long journey they had. And then they finally arrived. And then we could be there, and we said, welcome, and your new home.
It must be a really intimidating and sad situation when there's nobody there to say that, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
And obviously a government can't suddenly find 10,000 new people they can put on the payroll to go greet refugees. So it really is up to the believers. It's Christians that ought to be at the train stations and the bus stations.
Yes.
Hey, there was one other thing. Sorry, Susan. You said about your base. You got an old printing press place, offices, but a big building in Bad Blankenburg, yeah?
It's a big
Just
building.
so people can picture it.
Exactly, it's a huge building. It's 1,800 square meters, 4 stories big, and we were a small team of 5-6 staff. And so we just started to pick the refugees up, and then we gave them German lessons, and we played soccer with them, we did renovations together with them, and so we started building relationships, and so now it's 2 years ago, and with some of them we talk once in a while, and I just recently said, when did you guys arrive again? And they said, it was the 18th of September. We will never forget this day. When you were at the train station and we got off the train and you stood there with chocolate and with water and you said, welcome in Germany. And yeah, and they said, no, it changed our life forever. And every time when I asked them, how are you doing? They said, we feel safe. And
Fantastic.
so it opens your eyes, in what society we live in.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people are focusing on the high risk of having so many people come in. But I think what you've just illustrated is that if we focus on the high risk and we're afraid, we're going to have big problems. Mm-hmm. But if we focus on welcoming and loving, they're not going to be violent towards the people who've loved them.
We have we have about I would say 100 refugees a week that go through our base, and we have a few of them. They are seen as radical Muslims, and yet they love our base, and and they respect the rules, and we have sometimes hard discussions, but there's something that they keep coming back. We have a few that said they want to become Christians because, one young Afghani guy, he came up and he said, Suse, I walked through 9 countries. And he said, everywhere I looked, there was just problems. Everywhere where Islam was, the religion, there was so many problems. And I come into this country and I see how you treat the woman. I see how orderly everything is, and he said, if this is Christianity, this is what I want to have. So it's a whole new perspective, when you work with the people. And actually, to be honest, in the beginning I also was afraid. When I saw the first 50 Syrian men, and I had to translate for them for 1 hour, and after that, for one night, I couldn't sleep. But then the next morning I got up and I said, man, in the Bible it says 365 times approximately, do not fear.
Yeah.
We cannot be ruled by the fear. If we allow ourselves to be ruled by the fear, who else is going to do something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. By the way, what are the nationalities of the refugees you're working with?
We have Syrians, we have Eritreans, we have Iraqis, we have Afghanis. That's the...
So quite a wide range.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Gerard, let me come back to you. I heard a story from someone who'd been on Lesvos, and they were talking about a guy who was a bodyguard to a very high-ranking official, the highest-ranking official in one of the Muslim countries. And he'd traveled around with this mature Christian woman who was helping in the camps, and he was kind of self-appointed bodyguard. And after a couple weeks of following around, he said, I want water on my head, which is interpreted as, I want to be baptized. I want to become a Christian. And I think it was the same guy who said, you must talk to people as soon as they get here, because they know they're leaving Muslim nations and they're coming to Christian nation and they want to know. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, the secular authorities say you can't talk to them about religion because it's exploitation or it's manipulation. But the Universal Declaration of Human Rights gives everybody the right to talk about their religion and change their religion. Do you find that many of them are interested in Christian faith when they first arrive, or show that interest in the camps?
I think the initial arrival of people, can be marked by quite an amount of shock at times, and so I think what is required of believers is just a warm embrace, and really just receiving them with open arms and showing the gospel, first of all. I think what we have noticed is that the Muslim cultures and the people that come, they are in transition, and I think their cultures even are very observant, and so they will look at how do you live your life and conclude on based on how you live your life what your belief system is. And so if we are faithful and consistent with not just preaching a word but living the word before them, opportunity will come, as Suse shared, that they will look at our lifestyles and it will be, what is it that you have because I see that you are different? What set of values, what what worldview or truth or what God do you serve? And often it goes paired with many of them having had dreams and visions or miraculous salvations, like this man who crossed the Syrian border and Jesus stood there handing him a blanket, or an angel pulling a child out of rubble in Syria. And like, these are not sporadic stories. Like this is what is going on. And so I think with that, maybe it requires a different approach than Western Street evangelism that we're used to, but there's very much interest and incredible openness for these people that are not just physically in transition, but they're moving from one spiritual realm and rule to a new place.
And they know that, don't they?
I think they are aware of that.
Yeah.
One of our Iranian translators, he mentioned that, because he understands them much better, of course, and he said the people are aware that they're transitioning from one place to the other. Even though you can see the shore on the other side of the water, they are aware that they're transitioning spiritually.
They've moved.
Yeah.
Well, as you can see, there are tremendous opportunities. And it's not just about seeing people come to faith. That is central. But we're not about preaching. Because Jesus said, if you offer that cup of cold water in my name, you've offered it to me. So a big part of the gospel is serving those who are in the greatest need. And right now in our world, surely there are no people more needy than these stateless, homeless, rootless people who have gravitated to Christian, so-called Christian nations because they want a better life. And they recognize they're more likely to find it there than anywhere else around them. We have lots more opportunities of service. If you are moved by this in any way, or if you're a YWAM team looking for outreach or a DTS, go to ywam.org and have a look there. There'll be a link on into Refugee Ministries, and you can plan an opportunity, 3 weeks minimum, and if you can come for a year or two, that'd be much better. But remember, there's opportunities on both ends, both where you meet them when they first come ashore, and then 2 years later, when they've been in your community, there's still a great need to love, care, reach out, make friends, and show who Jesus is by the way you live. Thanks very much for being with us.